The world of Runeterra might be one of the most fascinating and intricate fantasy settings in modern gaming. While League of Legends is commonly associated with its wildly popular competitive scene, Riot Games have been taking great strides in recent years to flesh out their world and the characters that reside within, even going so far as to reboot the entire story in 2015. While this push for a deeper narrative has been widely appreciated by the game's lore community, the results have been controversial at times. With a retconned world came the need to retcon characters. Riot has made a substantial effort in the last few years to reimagine the backstories of League's iconic champions to fit them into the new lore, but not every change has been met with positive feedback. Let's face it, no writer is perfect and hindsight is 2020, so a number of characters throughout the years have been left with less than stellar backstories compared to most of the roster. Still, it is my firm belief that criticism should always be supplemented with suggestions and feedback for improvement, which is what we're here to discuss today. Hello and welcome to Runeterra Rewrites, a series in which I'll be offering my own takes on League's most controversial stories and champions. My aim is simple, to propose alternative versions of these stories that better match the characters' themes and concepts, without needing to alter anything regarding their in-game designs or voice lines. With all that being said, please sit back, relax, and let us begin, shall we? At the heart of a small Navori village called Tefun, there rests a sacred tree known as the Ghost Willow. It is said that the Ghost Willow's leaves only fall when great danger is to befall Ionia, and the urgency of the threat can be determined by how many leaves fall from the Ghost Willow's branches. Only once has the Ghost Willow shed all its leaves and left itself completely bare. The day of Syndra's birth. Syndra spent much of her childhood in isolation. The elders of Tefun kept her under near-constant surveillance whenever she left the house, which she was rarely permitted to do, and other children were forbidden from interacting with her. Her mother, Aya, did her best to raise Syndra from the confines of their own home, while her father, Koshi, did what he could to keep prying eyes at bay. Alas, Syndra's own brother, Evard, delighted in taunting and teasing his sister whenever they were left alone. Eventually, one of Evard's pranks went too far, and Syndra fled her house one evening to escape her brother's cruelty. Feeling remorse for his actions, Evard gathered two of his closest friends and gave chase. Eventually, the trio found her sobbing beneath the Ghost Willow, only to realize that the tree's leaves were once again starting to fall in Syndra's presence. At first, Evard's friends hurled insults and curses. When Syndra's cries only grew louder, they began to hurl rocks. Evard watched in horror as the stones came to a halt in the air around his sister, before flying back at her assailants and piercing their skin. Though the boys survived, word of this incident spread, and the entire village began to rally against Syndra. In the end, she and her entire family were forced to flee Tefun, wandering the Ionian countryside in exile. During that time, Syndra's strange power continued to manifest itself, causing cracks in the earth or making stones levitate whenever her emotions flared. The family sought counsel from many sages and monks along the western coast, but none seemed to fully understand the strange nature of Syndra's unusual and frightening magic. All they could do was offer the same advice again and again, that Syndra must learn to quiet her emotions, lest her power grow to threaten all of Ionia. As time passed, Evard's resentment toward his sister grew, and Koshi began to contemplate handing his daughter over to the Kinku Order. Sensing the rift forming in her family, Aya did what she could to comfort and raise Syndra in spite of everything, but even she knew that her daughter was beyond their ability to help. Then, as if sent by the will of Ionia itself, a hermit monk named Connigan appeared before the splintering family. He spoke of a school on the Isle of Phalor, where he taught children with temperamental magic to better harness and control their gifts. In the end, Syndra was sent off with Connigan to study under him, elation swelling in her chest. For years she had forced herself to wear a mask of stoicism, enduring her brother's resentment and her father's fear to keep this strange magic in check. Syndra believed that Connigan might finally hold the answers she sought, and so began her training. At first, things went well. Connigan taught Syndra that hers was the magic of gravity, a power that affected the relationship between all things. Under him, Syndra learned to lift and move stones twice her size, then to push and pull water like the tide. And yet, as her understanding grew, Syndra could feel her power waning. Tasks that seemed trivial with her magic became exceedingly difficult as the months dragged on. And yet, Connigan always deflected the question when his student inquired about this. Eventually, Syndra stole into Connigan's private chambers one morning when he was to allegedly begin his daily meditations, only to find him in the midst of a bizarre ritual. Again, Syndra felt her power weaken, and the girl realized that Connigan was the reason her magic had become so dull. When confronted about this, Connigan explained that Syndra's power was simply too potent to leave unchecked, presenting a threat to Ionia itself. Syndra felt betrayed. She believed Connigan trusted her, but he was afraid of her just like all the others. Connigan tried to calm Syndra down, but his efforts only stoked Syndra's rage further. Spheres of condensed power manifested all around Syndra, and tore through Connigan without mercy. Without even batting an eye at her mentor's death, Syndra unleashed her full strength for the first time in her life, taking to the skies and dragging pieces of the island itself along with her. Consumed by bitterness and hate, Syndra lashed out indiscriminately, until the will of Ionia itself was forced to intervene. From the cracks in the earth left by Syndra's rampage, great tendrils formed of knotted vines and flowers shot into the air. After a great and fearsome struggle, the ancient spirit dragged Syndra into the depths of the earth, trapping her within a mystical pool of water that lulled her into a deep sleep. There she was entombed, as the land slowly began to heal itself above her. Decades passed, and Connigan's old school was made into a fortress designed to guard Syndra's resting place, ensuring that no one and nothing could ever disturb her slumber. That is, until Noxian forces arrived in Ionia. The ensuing war once again brought devastation to the land, and the people of Phalor were left with a difficult choice. Free Syndra in the hopes that her power might aid them, or kill her to keep her magic from falling into Noxian hands. Amidst the ensuing chaos, Syndra woke, and her first act in decades was to decimate Ionian and Noxian forces alike. When she was finished, the few survivors who remained watched as Syndra ripped the very fortress from the earth, and took to the skies to parts unknown. None are certain where she is gone, nor what her aims are, but one thing is for certain. When Syndra inevitably returns, she will bring destruction the likes of which Ionia has never seen before.